The Lakers survived a grind. They did it without Austin Reeves, and every minute felt like a playoff quarter. If you were watching the final stretch, you knew exactly what I mean. Every rebound mattered, every defensive rotation was tested, and every whistle felt like a mini drama. This is the kind of game that doesn't come with clean narratives or tidy box score takeaways. It comes with a tone. It tells you something about temperament, about depth, and about the character of a group when the margin for error is razor thin. Before we dive in, a quick heads up. Earlier rundowns mixed up a few affiliations and box score details. I kept the same heat and the same appreciation for the drama, but I'll call out the places where you should double check facts before you tweet them. Consider this a passionate film-driven breakdown of a tense Lakers escape. A look at the moments and habits that decided the night rather than an attempt to relitigate precise stat lines. The headline is simple. This was a team win built on a handful of massive impact moments. The opponents wanted to make a statement. Victor Wembanyama was assertive, aggressive in those early minutes, and San Antonio came to compete. He showed the length and shot creation that make him such a disruptive matchup. But in the end, the Lakers found a way. Not a comfortable cruise control win, but a scrappy, intense escape that revealed more about identity than any single stat could. Let's start with the guy who transformed the rhythm of the night, the lead playmaker. Whether you call him a maestro or a menace, his ability to take over possessions was the spine of the game. He wasn't just scoring, he was dictating spacing, forcing defenses to react, and creating advantages for others. In stretches, he would pull up, freeze a defender, and on the next trip, he'd throw a laser or bait a double and leave someone wide open. That mix of fearlessness and craft is what carried the offense through its toughest moments. What stood out most were his instincts. Film showed him reading the defense 2 moves ahead. When the opponent blitzed, he saw the outlet before the crowd did. When they switched, he attacked the mismatch. When a defender tried to jaw at the ref mid-possession, he smiled and kept going. Those are the plays that break a defense's back. Not just the buckets, but the control. He expanded the court by altering how opponents had to guard the ball, and the gravity of his presence opened windows for secondary action. On the interior, the center's presence was quietly dominant. He didn't need to flash for highlight reels. Instead, he did the heavy lifting, setting screens, winning position, and finishing through contact. Offensively, he rolled hard, made the right rim reads, and cleaned up the paint. Defensively, he altered shots, fought through screens, and on several possessions showed the right combination of timing and strength to make life miserable for the opposing big. When the game was tight, those quiet wins in the paint mattered as much as any late jumper. There were a few possessions that crystallized their partnership. One sequence began with the ball handler using a screen, pulling up to create, then recovering the moment the defense overcommitted and delivering a perfect lob for an alley-oop. Later, the center set a puck screen, rolled, and the ball handler punished help defenders with a step-back triple. Those micro-synchronizations, the subtle pick-and-roll timing, the delayed pass that melts a collapse, are what turn a group of good players into a functioning unit. They aren't flashy in isolation, but collectively they create rhythm and sap the defense's resolve. On the defensive end, the energy guy changed the tone. You know the type. Pest-like, always in passing lanes, talking, directing traffic, almost daring opponents to make the wrong play. His defensive impact didn't always show up in highlight plays. Sometimes it was the forced timeout after a clutch stop. Sometimes it was the deflection leading to a late game trip to the line. That kind of presence is infectious. Teammates feed off it, opponents adjust their routes to avoid it. Late in the game, that defensive intensity was vital. With the clock bleeding and whistles popping, he stayed active, and switching, contesting, and scrapping for loose balls. There was a scramble where a missed shot turned into chaos on the glass. His hustle, save, and finish at the rim kept the scoreboard from tilting the wrong way. Plays like that don't always register in the box score the way they should, but they swing games. When you watch the tape, you see how one extra possession or one recovered ball reorients the endgame calculus. Now, the matchup with Victor Wembanyama, he showcased his length, shot creation, and ability to disrupt lanes. There were moments where he looked untouchable, especially when he stepped out and punished defenses from the mid-range or in transition. But the Lakers answered in the paint, not with brute force alone, but with smarter rotations and willing challenges. The key was refusing to treat him like a mythical creature. Instead, they focused on fundamentals: body up, close charge lines, and force uncomfortable angles. What made the difference was schematic discipline. Instead of overhelping and letting perimeter shooters roam free, the defense prioritized key responsibilities. Rotations were quick enough to contest, but not so overcommitted that a kickout became a dagger. That balance, the willingness to help, but the discipline to recover, showed up repeatedly in late possessions, and arguably made the margin between a loss and a win. The game tilted on small things: a contested offensive rebound, a timely foul to stop the clock, a hard-fought defensive stop in the lane. Micro moments add up. You could trace a string of possessions where a single hustle play led to a defensive rebound, which led to a fast break, which in turn forced the opponent into a low percentage shot. That kind of chain reaction becomes contagious. Momentum in tight games is granular. It's built on these little victories. Role players deserve credit too. One veteran wing showed an elite knack for spacing and hitting open looks, a movement without the ball that created passing lanes and forced defenders into rotations that opened driving lanes. Another young reserve kept bringing energy in short bursts, attacking the glass, moving the ball the right way, and staying ready when the coach called his name. Those bench contributions are the glue in a close contest. They don't always show up as big numbers, but they change the feel of a roster. Rui Hachimura, often described as a glue guy for this roster, continues to show reliability. He's not the flashiest, but he sets solid screens, chooses his spots, and finishes on time. That steady impact is exactly the kind of complementary play the team needs. Meanwhile, young players like Jake LaRavia flash traits that excite: timing, effort, and the occasional scoring burst. Whether those flashes turn into dependable nightly production will be one of the storylines to watch. A moment everyone will talk about was the late game stretch where clutch defensive possessions met timely offense. The starters did what starters must do at Pau: take the big shots, close out possessions, and avoid the hero ball trap. The energy pieces hustled for loose balls. The bench, though holding its breath, delivered exactly when called upon. That collective closeout reinforced the idea that this team can function without one or two of its usual cogs. It can adapt and find a winning template. That brings us to identity. For months, the question has been, who are the Lakers without their longtime central star? Tonight offered a partial answer. The identity looked more collective, playmaking shared, defensive communication clearer, and rotations that didn't fall apart when a key cog was out. It's still a work in progress, but you could see the framework of a team that can be dangerous when these pieces click. Offensively, the gravity of the primary playmaker matters. Teams collapse on him, and that opens shots for the rest. Defensively, the chatter and rotations eliminated easy looks. And on the glass, collective effort limited second chance points. Those three pillars, attack, communicate, rebound, and form the backbone of the win. A quick word about numbers. Several big stat lines were mentioned in earlier takes, but confirm the box score before you put anything in a tweet or headline. The emotional takeaway is consistent regardless of exact numbers. There were star-level minutes, powerful finishes inside, and scrappy defensive plays. But specifics matter for accuracy, so double-check the official stats if you plan to publish details. Also, treat historical superlatives cautiously. Claims like first in franchise history are catchy, but the record needs verification, and any promotions or codes mentioned in recaps should be verified before amplification. The narrative can be powerful. The facts should be ironclad. Looking forward, this stretch matters. If the team strings together wins without some of its usual pieces, it means depth is improving and chemistry is being forged under pressure. That's dangerous for the rest of the conference. Imagine this group with a full complement. The playmaking, interior toughness, and defensive nastiness combine into a unit that can pressure standings and playoff brackets alike. Quick player notes to file away. The lead playmaker continues to elevate his surroundings. The center is asserting himself physically and finishing reliably. The defensive spark plug is giving the team a tone they've sometimes lacked. Role players are stepping in, and when the bench finds rhythm, this team looks like a very different animal than earlier in the season. So what should fans be thinking? First, don't overreact to one win, but do get excited about the direction. Second, keep an eye on rotations and minutes. The coach's adjustments in tight games have been noticeable and effective. Third, verify stats and roster notes before sharing, because the narrative is powerful, but the facts matter. To close, games like tonight build belief. They're not pretty from start to finish, and they're full of messy possessions and contentious officiating. But the important part is the result and the way the team got there. If you're a Lakers fan, you leave buzzing about potential and identity. If you're a rival, you walk away a bit more nervous about what's coming next. If you want more film work on the plays that decided the game, tell me which sequence you want unpacked. The late defensive stand, the pick and roll that led to the alley-oop, or the hustle play that saved possession. Like for quicker post-game nuggets, subscribe for the deep dives that follow.